The courtroom was packed beyond capacity. Lawyers, journalists, law students, and curious citizens filled every wooden bench, their whispers echoing under the high vaulted ceilings. Cameras clicked as reporters jotted down notes, ready to catch every word, every gesture, and every dramatic exchange that was about to unfold. At the center of it all sat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, confident, fiery, and never one to back down from a challenge. She adjusted her glasses, brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, and leaned back in her chair with the poise of a woman prepared for battle. On the other side of the polished mahogany bench stood Judge Andrew H. Stones, known throughout the legal world for his sharp wit and ruthless cross-examinations. Beside him sat Judge Greg Mathis, the charismatic TV judge whose experience in both real and televised courtrooms gave him a unique authority. Today, the two judges weren't presiding in their traditional roles. Instead, they had been called in as part of a rare, high-profile congressional hearing with legal implications. The matter at hand was nothing short of explosive, whether Jasmine Crockett's fiery accusations against powerful lobbyists had crossed the line of legality, or whether she was being unfairly silenced for exposing corruption. The audience leaned forward in anticipation as Judge Stones cleared his throat. "Congresswoman Crockett," he began in a deep, commanding voice, "you have made bold claims, accusing corporate giants and political figures of collusion. But what we need here is evidence, not theatrics. Are you prepared to be questioned directly under oath?" Jasmine raised her chin. "Judge Stones, I was born ready. You can throw your hardest questions. But don't expect me to cower just because the truth makes powerful men uncomfortable." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Reporters, pens scribbled furiously. Judge Mathis leaned forward, his voice calm but edged with curiosity. "Ms. Crockett, the issue isn't whether you believe there's corruption. The issue is whether you have hard proof. You've accused CEOs, lobbyists, and even fellow lawmakers. Do you realize the weight of these allegations?" Jasmine didn't flinch. "Yes, Judge Mathis. And I also realize the weight of staying silent. If I don't speak, then the people who put me here, the working families, the single mothers, the students buried in debt, will never have a voice in these halls." For a brief moment, silence hung heavy in the courtroom. Even the judges seemed momentarily taken aback by the force in her words. But then Judge Stones smirked slightly, as though he had been waiting for that kind of defiance. "Ms. Crockett," he said sharply, "do not mistake passion for proof. Do you have documents, emails, recorded conversations? Or are we expected to accept your convictions as facts?" Jasmine's lips curled into the faintest of smiles. She reached into her leather briefcase and pulled out a thick binder, slapping it onto the table with a loud thud. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. "This," she said firmly, "isn't just conviction. It's evidence. And I've only shown the cover page." The tension in the room thickened. Journalists scrambled to their feet, cameras zooming in on the binder like it was the Holy Grail. Judge Mathis raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Judge Stones narrowed his eyes, clearly irritated that Jasmine had turned the tables so quickly. "Proceed," Judge Stones said curtly. Jasmine opened the binder with deliberate slowness, her fingers brushing across tabbed sections. "Inside this file," she said, "are internal memos, transaction records, and whistleblower testimonies. Documents that reveal how certain corporations funneled money to political campaigns, laundered through front organizations. And guess what? The names attached to these deals aren't small players. They're the same men and women sitting in Congress today, passing laws that crush the very people they swore to protect." The crowd gasped again. Even Judge Mathis, usually calm and collected, leaned back in surprise. Judge Stones slammed his gavel down. "Order! Order in the courtroom." But Jasmine's voice only grew louder, echoing with conviction. "You want to know why the American people are angry? Why trust in our institutions is collapsing? It's because of this. Because powerful people are allowed to play by different rules, rules that hurt the powerless. And when someone like me dares to call it out, suddenly I'm the one on trial." The audience erupted into cheers and applause before the bailiffs rushed to quiet them down. Judge Mathis rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Ms. Crockett," he said carefully, "you've certainly brought strong words, and stronger evidence. But you're not just putting your career on the line here. You're accusing people who can ruin you. Are you ready for the fallout?" Jasmine's eyes blazed with determination. Judge Mathis, my career isn't worth more than my conscience. If I fall fighting for the truth. And if they try to silence me, then that silence will scream louder than anything I could ever say. For a long moment, there was only silence. Even Judge Stones, known for his unshakable demeanor, seemed caught between admiration and frustration. He leaned forward, his voice softer now. You realize, Stones said, that once these documents are entered into record, there's no turning back. You'll be forcing this nation to confront its own corruption, dragging names through the mud that have long been untouchable. Jasmine looked him straight in the eye. Then let the mud wash away the lies. The words struck like lightning. The crowd was electrified. Reporters rushed toward the exits to break the story. Bailiffs shouted for order, their voices drowned by the storm of applause. Judge Mathis shook his head with a mix of disbelief and respect. Well, Ms. Crockett, it seems the courtroom is stunned. But stunned isn't the same as defeated. Judge Stones finally banged his gavel again, his voice booming. This hearing is adjourned until tomorrow morning. But make no mistake, Congresswoman, tomorrow, the real battle begins. As the gavel echoed across the chamber, Jasmine Crockett stood tall, clutching her binder of evidence. Her allies rushed to her side, reporters shouted her name, and the public watched with wide eyes. The fight wasn't over. In fact, it had only just begun. And the courtroom would never forget the day Judges Stones and Mathis cornered Jasmine Crockett, only to find themselves cornered by the truth.